everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm reviewing a 6th Doctor story. It's Revelation of the Daleks. It's a classic series story, so it has to be. The plot synopsis from the television companion. Here it is. The Doctor and Peri arrive on the planet Necros, where, in a facility called Tranquil Repose, presided over by Mr. Jubel and his assistant Tassan Beaker, the wealthy can have their newly deceased bodies cryogenically frozen until such time as medical science can cure whatever killed them. The Doctor wishes to pay his last respects to his friend Professor Arthur Stengos, and also to assuage some nagging suspicions about the man's death. His suspicions prove justified, as it turns out that this is just a ruse to lure them into a trap. The great healer, masterminding Tranquil Repose, is Davoros, who is using the organic material in the cryogenic storage units both as the raw material for the synthetic food that is Necros' biggest export, and also to create a whole new army of Daleks with which to take control of the universe. Davros' plans are foiled when the Daleks loyal to the Dalek Supreme arrive on Necros and take him prisoner. The Doctor suggests the planet's inhabitants a new basis for their economy. So, here we are. We are in the final story of season 22 of Doctor Who before its hiatus for 18 months and comes back with the Trial of a Time Lord, which I've already reviewed up there, of course. So, what's my overall thoughts of the story? Very dark, very interesting, and there's kind of like 2 or 3 plots come together on here. You've got the Davoros get the Doctor into Necros and bringing him round. You're never quite sure why the Doctor's been brought in by Davoros. We don't know what kind of revenge it would be, but he's been brought in by Davoros. You've got the plot of Kara and her assistant Vogel, who got a assassin to come in and kill Davoros, Orsini and Vostok. And then you've got the whole plot line between Jubel and Tassan Beaker and her unrequited love for him, and the fact that he's a bit of a womanizer and she is manipulated by Davoros to kill him, effectively, to become a Dalek, which I think is an interesting underplot as well. So there's 3 different plot lines all coming together at this, and it's really quite an interesting plot line. And it is the one of the 45-minuters that we get, 45-minuter stories that we get, because it's 2 episodes of 45 minutes for this season, mostly, apart from the 2 Doctors. And this is the one I think actually works the best. I think the plot line is written the best way. It is written by Eric Saywood, who's very good at writing for Dalek stories and writing characters in general. And this one has a lot of Robert Holmes elements to it, with the kind of pairings off. Because you've got the pairings of Bostock and Orsini, you've got the Doctor and Peri, you've got Jubel and Tassan Beaker, and they're up and running. You've got Lint and Tarkus, the security guards, and the people who seem to be more involved in running over Jubel of Tranquil Repose as well. There's lots of pairings within this, and it works really well. You've got Kara and Vogel as well. So it's very, very Robert Holmesy in its styles with its pairings, and I think Eric Saywood's maybe learnt a lot from Caves of Androzani in the way it's been written, and it makes for a brilliant story in regards to that. I'll go through some of the beats I do like about the story in a minute, but let's just go through some of the main characters. So you've got Colin Baker playing the 6th Doctor, very comfortable in his role now. The kind of more rounded Doctor is coming through. He is a bit more morose at times when it comes to the death of Stengos. Oh, my brain is all over the place today. I've just recorded Nicola Night of Terror, and my brains are all over the place today. So we've got Stengos and his mourning for his death, and the whole conversation between them, and there's a bit near the beginning of the story where there's a mutant that attacks the Doctor, and Peri saves him by basically knocking the guy to the ground and killing him, effectively. And the kind of sympathy he shows with Peri there and the respect he shows is great. But there's still a bit of arguments, but it's matured. It's away from Time Lash, and it's kind of like, thank God the arguments are nitpicking, because it was starting to mature into a good Doctor companion pairing, and this is carried on here, and there is maybe a little bit of narking, but they're more of a friendship now, which is really nice to see. And Colin Baker is really fell into the role by now. He doesn't seem to put a point wrong, really, and Colin Baker's always good at acting what he does, but when he's given meaty stuff in Doctor Who, he runs with it, and this is certainly one of these ones he runs with. He's not fully involved in the plot, he is a passenger to some respect, But what he does do on screen shows the Doctor as the hero that we all want him to be, and the whole season turns to something more of what we expect the Doctor to be nowadays, a hero, and he really does bring the role to its own. It's the closest you get all round, I think, of the Doctor, Sixth Doctor, to what you get in the Big Finish. I mean, Trial of the Time Lord, he has matured and mellowed a bit more, but there's more ranting and shouting from the Sixth Doctor in Trial of the Time Lord. This one is very nuanced. It gives all the elements of the Sixth Doctor that we love as the Doctor, but also some of the more nuanced stuff we see in Big Finish, and it really works quite well. What also works quite well is Nicola Bryant's Perry. No longer the annoying American, she's really happy in the role. I love the fact that she's now become the audience representation properly with the companion. She's not narking as much, she's not arguing with the Doctor, she's not as snippy with people. I do like the way Nicola Bryant plays it, and she plays Perry brilliantly across the board. But I think Perry's a more well-rounded, likeable character now, and the fact that she's now dressing more like somebody of her era instead of all these leotards and tight-fitting costumes that she was early in the season, I think that helps a hell of a lot as well, because she's in the same shirt and she's in the same blouse and trousers that she was in Time Lash. In it, the whole costume, it takes away from that and helps you concentrate on the character and the way that it's been acted by Nicola Bryant, and this kind of independence she has, but the uncertainty she has as well. She knows she's a bit unsure. The botany element comes in again with the weed plant. That's referenced early in the story, and she loves the flower. She quite likes it. It's really quite lovely to see her studies going on there, and that there is elements of the character that was introduced in Planet of Fire is still there with the botany. I think it's the last time botany's actually mentioned in the series with Perry, but it's nice to have that element there, and it's a lovely character overall. You then got the guest cast, and as I say, it's really pairings you've got to go with here. So you've got Vogel and Kara, played by Hugh Walters and Eleanor Bron, respectively. Eleanor Bron is very much the simpering worker with Davoros, but she's very scheming underneath and very selfish. She wants to have the whole of the protein factory under her hands, not under the Great Healer's hands, and this whole bit of the assassination was to get rid of Davoros because she knows he's a threat, but he's a threat for business purposes more than actually his under machinations of the Daleks. I mean, she realises obviously who Davoros is and what his history is, and that lovely underplaying. And then you got Hugh Walters, who recently mentioned playing his role in The Fearmonger. Again, he's kind of like the secretary. The whole relationship between the two of them, the great respect, great friendship, and the bit when Vogel gets shot by the Dalek, gets exterminated by the Dalek in the second episode, and the way he gets hurt, he looks longingly at Kara saying, "I'm sorry," or "I love you," or something like that, then collapses. That's a lovely little moment, and it's well played by Hugh Walters. You then got Jubel, played by Clive Swift. I think it's deliberately played with such a obnoxiousness part of the character, and this guy who's full of himself and a bit of a smarmy woman, likes his ladies, and the kind of slimy moments he has with Perry when he first meets Perry, and the whole sliminess of him, and the way he frolics with all the other girls in Tranquil Repose, and the fact he rebuffs Tassenbeeker's longing for him is really well done, and I do quite like the way it's been put across by Clive Swift, and he acts it quite well. I love the fact that they've got these elements of him preening a toupee, and they made it very clear it's a toupee, and it looks like Clive Swift was up for the idea. And the bit when Vogel gets killed by Jubel gets killed by Tassenbeeker near the end with the syringe, and the fact that when he falls to the ground the wig comes off, I think that's quite a lovely little moment that kind of pops this kind of arrogance from him and how much of a weak man he really was underneath it all. His other pairing is Jenny Thomasin, who plays Tassenbeeker. She's supposed to be playing a student, but it's obvious that she is maybe a little older, and she was in her 40s at the time of doing this. But it's a very nuanced role. It's a very fawning role, and it's very polite the way it's done. And I love that frisson between the two of them. The fact that she's obviously doesn't like being picked up on the fact that she fancies Jubel and Tarkis and Lint, Lilt also mentioned that to her, and she kind of snaps back at them. I quite like the way the character works, and that she really wants to help people and really wants to do her best work. It's quite well played. I quite like the way it's played overall, to be fair, and Jenny Thomason does a good job. You've then got Orsini and Bostock, played by William Gaunt and John Ogwyn, respectively. This kind of proud Knight of the Order of Oberon, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, Knight of the Order of Oberon. It's really nice. I do like that, and I do like the way William Gaunt underplays it. He could have come across as very pompous about this, I'm a great assassin, but he doesn't. He plays it with kind of a reverence so much. So when he does do stuff and he does fight at the end, it seems more within the character of somebody who's lived a life, wants a bit of glory to end his days, and why not? When you've got Davoros as the potential kill for that. You then got, as I say, John Ogwyn, who plays Bostock. Very loyal. I do like the character overall. It's a very loyal character, and I think it does work. But there's really not much to the character. He's kind of like a lackey to Orsini, but it does. I do like the way he plays it. We then have another pairing which I didn't mention, which is Grigory, played by Stephen Flynn, and Natasha, played by Bridget Lynch Blosse. Natasha is Stengos's daughter, trying to find her father. They think initially, so he's in the cryogenic state chambers, and then they find he's in a incubation chamber as a Dalek. And the whole relationship between the two of them, Grigory's kind of a fearful doctor nurse who doesn't want to get involved, but Natasha ropes him through, and it's a nice little conversation between the two of them. It's not a bad wee role between the two of them. You've then got Takis, played by Trevor Cooper, and Lilt, played by Colin Spall. Colin Spall will return in series 2 of the new series in Rise of the Cybermen, which is the Age of Steel. But I've evidently directed by Graham Harper again. I'll get to Graham Harper in a minute. So obviously Graham Harper has his favourites he wants to put in as well. But I love the situation of the hard man in there, the soft, the good cop bad cop they have when they're doing the interrogation with Grigory and Natasha, and but the two of them don't really come into their own until later on, when you understand there's an underlying plot. They're trying to get the Imperial Daleks to come over, the Daleks under the Supreme Dalek to come and get Davoros, because they know Davoros is there. And that kind of underlying plot, they become more prominent as goes on. They're a bit more underlings and lackeys to start with, and they come in, and both of them play it really well. Takis is very good Takis is very, very well played by Trevor Cooper, and Lilt is solid by Colin Spall, but they are very small parts, to be fair. The only other parts I want to really go over is, of course, the DJ, played by Alexei Sale. The idea of a kind of commentator, of a DJ who loves obviously all the modern music, all the music of the past, and that kind of it's kind of got a kind of left wing vibe the way Alexei Sale plays it, but it works. It's not annoying. It kind of has a nice commentary to it and gives a different lift, and it's nice to see the other side of him, of this kind of shy person who's obviously playing the character when Perry meets the DJ later on, and the whole conversation they have with each other. I think it's quite sweet the way it's played overall. The standout guest star, as he was in Resurrection of the Daleks, is Terry Molloy as Davoros. Scheming, maniacal. I think it's the best of the three appearances that Davoros has in the classic series, as I've alluded to in Resurrection. I think it's just the whole scheming of him, the whole planning. I love the fact that obviously he's a head in a case for most of it, and his head's swiveling around to see what's happening in his lair, like a spider in his lair. I think it's really cool, the planning. It's not quite sure why Davoros is bringing the Doctor over with Stengos and his death, and how that works. It's interesting how that's there. It's not quite sure, but the whole underplanning of trying to turn people over, the fact that Jabel has rejected his offer to be a Dalek, the fact that Tassenbeka does want to come of it, but her emotions get in the way of it for Jabel. The whole way that he plans, his scheming and planning is very much showing the scientific and interesting side of Davros, and the fact that he has this name of the Great Healer, and the fact that he's basically taken the dead bodies and turned them into protein, to help with the famine. Famine was one of the biggest problems in this quadrant of the galaxy. It's not anymore, effectively, because he's been part of the solution for it, and this kind of underlying scheming and the whole conversation. I mean, the best bit of it is the conversation between the Doctor and Davoros when the Doctor confronts him near the end, and the whole fact about saying, the Doctor makes a quip about, oh, didn't you tell the relatives that they're eating their own people? And the Davros says, certainly not. I believe that's what they call consumer resistance, and this kind of little dark humour that comes through all the way through. I really think Terry Malloy nails it in this one, and if you want to see it for just the way Davros should be on screen, this is the best example of Davros as a character since Genesis of the Daleks, and is probably the best example of Davros going forward in the TV series. There's a lot more darkness in Big Finish, which I'll come to when we get to that stage. But yes, Terry Malloy, definitely the standout of this story. So let's have a look at some of the good bits I do like of this story and just go through it. So you've got as I mentioned a bit about the mutant being killed by Perry when the mutant attacks the Doctor up at the snowy plains round about Necros when they first come out from the TARDIS. It actually had snowed, which was interesting, so they used that as part of the whole filming process, which was really nice. That whole scene's really quite cool. You've got the situation where Perry and the Doctor are climbing up the wall to get into the complex for Tranquil Repose, and the fact that Perry crushes his watch when she goes up, and that is where the tension and the argument bickering works, because it's kind of played for laughs a little bit, which works quite well until we get up the top. So until they climb over and the Doctor notices his watch has been destroyed, and I think it's really, I think that's where the kind of bickering would work better between the two of them. I think this is where they found the feat with this writing. Apart from that, I've basically gone through some of the points I like when I've been talking about the characters and that. So there's not really much more I can really say from it. Production-wise, you can tell it's slightly the end of the season because it's kind of set corridors and set ways. It works, and Graham Harper's direction's brilliant. It's not as good as Caves and Androzani, but the direction works for what it needs to do. There's a few high-up shots, there's a few low-down shots. Not as much single camera work. I think he's learnt his lesson from Caves, because I don't think the production time schedule allowed him to do single camera as much as he wanted to. But it's still a very fast-paced, action-packed adventure, something you wouldn't see really in Doctor Who for another couple of years properly in regards to the fast-pacedness of stuff, because really the McCoy era really goes in through that fast-pacedness. But Graham Harper is the first example of it working the way it works. Eric Saywood's script is very good. It's very much in the mind of Robert Holmes overall. I do think it's quite a strong story overall to have, and I do like overall the story of Revelation of the Daleks. I think it's the strongest of the 80s Dalek stories overall in regards to its background and how it all works and everything. I think it's good. The way it's written, it is very Robert Holmes in its style, and I think Saywood has learnt a lot from Robert Holmes when he came in and did Caves of Androzani, and it shows. And I do enjoy this story for that. And overall, I quite like this. Effects are kind of okay. You get the Daleks blowing up. You've got the Dalek voices are they don't sound quite right. It's not, they're missing the ring modulator. It doesn't quite work this time round. But it's okay, and the effects are pretty solid overall. But for the BBC budget 1985, they're okay. I mean, you can ignore them, and it doesn't really detract from the story. The only thing that's really a bit ropey is the gravestone. I don't understand why the gravestone's there to crush the Doctor near the end of the first episode. This polystyrene gravestone. It's obviously polystyrene. It's not really well thought out, but it's okay. It's not too bad. But overall, I love this story. I think it's a great story to watch. It's not top tier for me, but it is very high in my rating so far. I would give the story 4 TARDISes out of 5. Let's see how that story fits in for the rest of the Colin Baker era, and obviously how it fits in with the rest of the stories overall that I've reviewed so far. So, Revelation of the Daleks is my favourite Colin Baker story so far, with 4 TARDISes out of 5. With 3.5 TARDISes out of 5 is Vengeance and Varos and the whole of the Trial of the Time Lord season, and at the bottom is 2.5 TARDISes out of 5 with Time Lash. Overall, Time Lash is joined by Sleep No More with 2.5 TARDISes out of 5, and at the top are still 6 stories with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5. They are The Happiness Patrol, Inferno, The Day of the Doctor, The Caves of Androzani, The Tomb of the Cybermen, and Dalek. That's it for this review. Tell me what you think about Revelation of the Daleks. Leave a comment down below. Do you like it? Leave a comment down below. Do you not like it? Leave a comment down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like it and share it with the hashtag teamstructor. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like the channel as a whole, and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General new video every Sunday at 4 PM GMT, and that's where we have coming up next Sunday at 4 PM GMT. Not quite sure at the time of recording what exactly it's going to be, but hopefully you can join me for that. But yes, if you want to help support the channel a bit more, you can go to the Patreon at patreon.com/Deanstructor. For as little as £1 or $1 a month, you can help support the channel. So you can go to patreon.com/Deanstructor. That's it from me. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, see you later.